Hello and welcome back to the Full-Time Devils preview of Blackburn versus Manchester United in the FA Cup 5th round. I am joined by the one and only Greg Johnson, and also on Skype we've got Paul Rancaster and of course Rachel Thomas. But anyway guys, let's dive in straight away. First up we're going to talk about Zlatan, the big Swede. 35 games this season, scored 23 goals and registered 6 assists. He's been quite fantastic. But Greg, are you worried that his scoring rate is going to slow down?
Not really, because as we've seen at PSG, he kept it going all throughout last season, and age is not a factor for this large centre forward of a man that he is. I think my problem with him is he making the team predictable in the long run? He's never won the Champions League, and maybe there might be a reason for that. In the league, he's been involved in 19 goals, scoring 15 with 4 assists. That's involvement in 50% of United's goals. He's scored 40% of them himself. That's, maybe you're focusing all the play on one player a bit too much. And going forward, when they go back into Europe next season, United, will that be a problem? Look what happened with Ruud van Nistelrooy when he was the main man. Got rid of him. Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez. It was a much more multifaceted attack. So maybe in the long run, I'm not trying to pour water on the flames, but that's something to keep an eye on. Maybe shouldn't be a problem against Blackburn, I would say. Exactly.
Blackburn, should be an easy target for Zlatan. But anyway, scored a hat-trick in the Europa League against Saint-Etienne during the middle of the week. Paul, what do you think about his performance, and do you think he's combining well with Anthony Martial now? Their understanding looks like it's going to blossom in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I wrote a thing for Bleacher Report where I said one of the big things that Martial brings to the party is support for Ibrahimovic. You would think that in theory Rashford would do that, but it just wasn't. It didn't seem to work that well between the two of them. But maybe it's something to do with Martial's maturity as a footballer. Maybe it's his understanding of the position on the left. But I think he supports Zlatan excellently. I mean, I think it's a kind of universally shared opinion to a degree that Ibrahimovic's overall performance against Saint-Etienne wasn't all that. But his eye for a goal is unquestionable. And I think it's interesting what Greg said about United being a bit predictable with him. I think if you look at the goals that he scored against Saint-Etienne, there was nothing predictable about any of them, really. They weren't goals which were engineered by Zlatan being the kind of fulcrum of United's attack. The first one was the free kick, which I still don't really know what happened. The second one was a tap-in, where someone else really should have scored first, and it ended up breaking to him. So that's not really United kind of going route one through Zlatan. And the third one was a penalty, obviously, which was that was earned by him holding up the ball in the box. So to be fair, that one was maybe the most pure Zlatan of all the goals. But I think the fact that he scores so many goals really makes up for it, because I don't know if you've noticed, we're not actually in the Champions League. So,
Yeah, definitely. It's a thing there. In terms of goals this season, I've got a bet with the great Adam Boltwood that he's going to score over 20 goals in the Premier League this season, and that is for a bleached blonde hairdo. So I still may have it. But Rachel, how many goals do you think Zlatan will score this season? How important has he been to United this year?
I think the worry for the league is that earlier on in the season he did have a dry spell, and there's a very good chance that that's going to happen again. So I think he'll probably just hit over 20. I'm on your side of this bet, Dave, now. I really do think you'll win this. But I think there is that worry. But I think that dry spell is important in the sense that, he is on 23 goals this season, including 6-7 games or something he went without scoring. I think that just shows how clinical he is. And as for his age, I feel like people like to focus on it as a statistic, that it's this number and you can compare it to all these other people and predict what he's going to do. But in reality, people age at different rates. In my opinion, Wayne Rooney's younger than him but has aged worse than him. Yeah. And Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he's not about pace, he's about skill and strength, and he's managed to keep that up to the age of 34 now, and I think he can carry it going on into next year.
It's a great point. I think in terms of strikers and target men, they do peak later on in their career, and we're seeing Zlatan's peak just keep peaking. He did it against French farmers, and now he's doing it against English farmers. But anyway, moving on, we've got to talk about Ander Herrera. The Spanish midfield legend has been so good for Manchester United this season. Ole, ole, Ander Herrera. But in terms of what he's done this year, I've been so impressed by his ability to win the ball back in the opposition's half. Question to you, Rachel. How much do you love Ander Herrera?
Loads. Absolutely loads. I think Oh, I love him. Like watching him last night as well, like when he got the yellow card and when he probably should have got an actual yellow card later on. Like he just throws his body on the line. Like Ander Herrera loves Manchester United and Manchester United fans love Ander Herrera. You know, I read a piece in which he'd been like quoted saying that he was actually really happy with what Jose had done for him. Like that a lot of attacking midfielders would have resented being pushed further back out of the fray. But like he hasn't. He's flourished being in defensive midfield, and I feel like the team really lacks without him because he puts the graft in.
That is the big thing. He is the worker. He is the heartbeat of that side at the moment. He's getting the best out of players like Paul Pogba. But Greg, in terms of a tactical sense, how's Mourinho used Ander Herrera this season? He's used him in a number of positions. For you, how do you interpret his role?
Well, I'd say his best position, the one he's playing in now. I think there's a lot of similarities to what happened with Nemanja Matic at Chelsea. And Pogba's almost got the kind of free role that Fabregas had. And you look at Herrera's statistics, he's top of the pile for interceptions made, and he's actually got the most passes per 90. And what we saw earlier in the season was Fellaini was up there as the defensive member of the midfield next to Pogba. And even though Fellaini's pass accuracy was very high, he was doing exactly what people used to accuse Carrick of doing. He was making the most safe, most defensive pass options possible, and it only added the amount of work Pogba had to do. Basically, Pogba had to then create for two people. With Herrera sharing the load, he's actually passing more, making more passes than Pogba, which allows Pogba to do more off the ball, which anyone saw him at Juventus knows that is actually a big part of his game as well. So yeah, playing deeper, Herrera is an absolute masterstroke by Mourinho.
Yeah, I kind of agree. He's really grown into the season. I think the games, the more that Herrera's played, the better he's got in terms of interceptions, tackles, winning the ball back. Every single game, he is ranked at number 1. But in terms of United captains, Paul, can Ander Herrera be the next big one for United? Can he drive United forward?
I noticed it's interesting that you didn't come to me for the question of how he's done in the tactical role alongside Paul Pogba. And I mean, I wonder if that could be because, Dave, earlier in this season, we had a recorded conversation where there was some debate.
About, mate.
A recorded conversation? This sounds...
I believe someone, I can't remember who it was to be fair, said that Fellaini should be first choice partner alongside Pogba. But I argued all along that it should be Ander Herrera because he's brilliant. As for United captain, I think this depends a little bit on the transfer market, and also it depends on what sort of captain Mourinho wants. I think as someone who understands the culture of the club, I think Herrera is up there. Only the people who've been there since the height of the Fergie era probably have an edge on him in that regard. Obviously, he's a kind of a leader in terms of talking. I remember last season, it was really noticeable that whenever Van Gaal would give a debut to a new 16-year-old, Herrera would always kind of make sure to reach out to them and to talk to them about their role in the side. He obviously has that combative streak as well, which United's best captains have had. I don't know yet whether because it's been a long time since they had a club captain who didn't have seasons and seasons under their belt at United. So I wonder whether it'll be someone who's been there a little longer. But I think he's definitely in the running for a future captain. It's very strange when people don't rate Ander Herrera. He's not perfect. We saw in the first half yesterday when I think United's midfield shape kind of fell apart, really. But I don't think that was Herrera. I think that was the guy that someone said should be Pogba's.
Steve Barrowan has a role in this United team, whether it's pumping long balls into the box for him or just putting him in defensive midfield. He's still hanging around. But anyway, we're just going to jump to a quick little ad break to pay for Adam McCullough's new trainers, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. Well, guys, thanks for sticking with us. We're going to talk about the team selection right now. We're going to go through each three of these starting 11s. In terms of the race for the title, in a way, at Full-Time Devils this season, we are giving people points for their correct selection. Unfortunately, Stephen Howson is still at number 1, sticking around like a pretty bad smell. But John Shin has joined him on 41 points. So I expect some big performances from Rachel, from Paul, and of course from Greg. I think we'll start with Greg. What's your starting lineup? Who are you going to go with?
De Gea in goal. I think, the FA Cup is definitely one competition where you will want to win. Going after the Scouse treble, you could say. At right back, Valencia, I think Bailly and Rojo in the middle, maybe. Switch up a bit. Luke Shaw, left back, that's maybe more one out of hope than anything else. Herrera and Pogba in midfield, just because Fellaini, no. Attacking midfield, Lingard, Mkhitaryan and... Let's go with Rashford. Yeah, why not? Give Martial a rest. He's been very good, but he needs to, needs to keep that fire burning. And then Ibrahimovic up front.
Nice,
shows
decent
no sign of slowing down, so keep him going.
100%. I like the 4-2-3 one. I think Mkhitaryan's been absolutely phenomenal in that position in number 10. He's been running the show
in
the final third. It's been brilliant. But anyway, Rachel, let's move on to your team. Who are you going to go with? Are you going to bring in a youth?
No, not even slightly. Because I want points. I've put so much effort into this. I've thought about it loads. And you can make
Good work, Rachel.
You can make an argument for every position to be different people. So, I've got no idea. I was ready to put Romero in, but now De Gea's been rested. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening. It's been really stressful. So, I'm going to put De Gea in net and start off strong. And then I'm going Darmian right back because I think we're going to rest Valencia because they can't. We had 5 games in 15 days. That is so many games. That's beyond competition form.
Raymond's
anyway.
Happy.
Ugh. Right, Darmian right back, and then I'm going to stick with Bailly and Smalling as our centre back pairing because I feel like they need more minutes than rest at this point. I want a centre back pairing that are strong and on it. And then I'm going Shaw left back. I'm going to go Herrera and Pogba in midfield, but I battled with that because I personally think if anybody in our team needs a rest, it's probably Herrera. He's constantly throwing his body on the line and throwing himself on the floor, but I don't think there's anybody that can stand in for him. So Herrera, Pogba, and then I'm going Mkhitaryan, Rooney at number 10, Lingard on the left, and Rashford up top.
Nice. So Marcus Rashford getting some game minutes ahead of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Hope that wasn't too stressful for you, Rachel. Anyway, Paul, we're going to move on to your midfield, of course, of Ander Herrera, Marouane Fellaini and Paul Pogba. Tell me about it, mate.
I'm not at all confident about this lineup. Dave in goal. He played Fosu Mensah against Wigan. I think there's a decent chance he'll play Fosu Mensah here. And the amount that I want to see it and the number of points I am behind in the table means I'm plumping for that. I would love to see him go with Bailly and Rojo at centre-back because I want to see how that works. Because at the moment, I'm leaning towards that being our first choice defensive pairing. I don't know. Life's weird. Luke Shaw at left back. Herrera, I completely agree with Rachel. I think he's the player that needs a rest. Fortunately, he earned himself one because he won't be playing in Europe in the week. So Herrera, Pogba in the middle. I'm going for the big three: Mata, Mkhitaryan, Martial. I think that's because we're winning 3-0 from the first leg. He can afford to put all his energy into this tie. And if he plays a couple of younger defenders, he's often played really high quality attacks when he's messed around elsewhere. And Ibrahimovic up front as a result of that. Although would love to see Marcus Rashford in front of that 3 because I think that could be electric.
That could be very dangerous with pace on the counter-attack. Just going back to your 2 centre-backs, Greg mentioned it as well. I would love to see Bailly and Rojo next to each other. One of the things that they've got instantly is that communication. Both of them speak Spanish. Bailly obviously coming to England, having to pick up English over the season. So maybe that could be a really good combination. That going back to a language that they're very comfortable with, and obviously David De Gea in goal could work quite well. But anyway, let's talk about Blackburn Rovers. Gone of the days of SAS, Shearer and Sutton. The Venkies are in charge, and Blackburn are on course for falling into League One, which will be unfortunate. Players that potentially could cause us trouble. Danny Graham. Got anyone else, Greg Johnson?
Yeah, Sam Gallagher up front as well.
Yeah.
And down the wings, Conway and Feeney. They're the guys that create the most chances for them in this 4-4-2 that Owen Coyle. Remember Owen Coyle? Talk of a new Arsene Wenger replacement. He was the man who was meant to do it, wasn't he? But maybe not anymore. And they play 4-4-2, very wide, lots of width, lots of crosses, lots of long balls. So, a typical Football League side, you'd kind of say, if you were going to stick to the caricatures. But yeah.
A beatable team then. Rachel, anything you want to add on Blackburn Rovers?
Yeah, I read that Sam Gallagher might be out with a knee injury. Ooh. So that might be good for us, but that's only a possibility. They're not happy as a club right now. Obviously, not just the fact that they're 23rd in the championship, but their club is in shambles right now. We might hate our owners, but they really hate their owners. So at least we've got to step up there. But no, I read that they're also planning a protest. So I'm intrigued to see what that protest might be.
Yeah, it could be an interesting one. They might not even show up for the game. Paul, who's Marouane Fellaini going to have to deal with in central midfield for Blackburn Rovers?
This is just mean, isn't it? This is just I had to go, so you're well, let me ask Paul a really specific question about Blackburn Rovers. I don't know.
Well, it's only fair,
None
isn't
of
it, Paul?
us know. Literally no humans know who plays in midfield for Blackburn Rovers. That's probably not true. I met their left back once.
That's
it.
what we
10 out
wanted
of
to
10.
hear. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. One day, Paul
Paul's
Rankins
one.
met the Blackburn Rovers left back.
But anyway, let's move on to score predictions. Greg, what are you saying?
2-0.
2-0 to Manchester United. Excellent. Paul, what are you saying?
I think if he plays the team that I suggested, we're going to win 3-0.
And Rachel?
I'm upset that Greg took my scoreline. However, I know that other people's opinions affect me, so I'm going to go 2-0 as well.
Both 2-0s. Well, I'm going to go 4-0 Manchester United. They're
Oh,
gonna be
Dave, you
rampant
always
against
do
Blackburn. They're going to
this.
blow them away. Marouane Fellaini is going to score a hat-trick.
You heard it here first. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching the Full-Time Devils Blackburn preview of the FA Cup 5th round. Remember, in the comments below, get your teams in. Who do you think is going to start against Blackburn? And also your score predictions. And make sure you check all these guys out on social media because they are great follows. But anyway, till next time. See you later, guys.